tell. Just Scott Barretto. How much have you guys ever wanted to like donate a whole bunch of money to some place so you get your name like on a park bench or a playground or something, and then get just super hammered and stay there, like not being a pain or anything, but just staying there too long, and then have someone remove you only so you can be like, you know who I am? You see my name on that slide? God, that's what I want to do. That's my life goal right there. I think that would please Twitter very much. I've watched a good chunk of Super Unreal End Gaming. I just haven't had time to go through all of it. I watched many episodes and lots of recaps. Lots of recaps. All right, so this is the affidavit of Scott Barretto. So we've got his oh, look at that. First paragraph is very different. Oh, but it's mainly they added that I'm providing the supplemental affidavit to offer additional information in support of my prior affidavit executed on June 28th. This is a funny line. The exhibits referenced in this affidavit are the same exhibits attached to my prior affidavit. And there's going to be a very specific change where Scott Barretto goes ahead and retroactively states that he pulled them on a specific day and refers to the original productions, because even though he definitely 100%, because remember, Volney, Lemoyne, and Sam Johnson are the most competent attorneys in the room, and Ty's a bumbling idiot who doesn't know how to authenticate anything. They definitely correctly authenticated the documents, lol. Except suddenly Volney felt the necessity to get updated affidavits which correct their authentication statements to make them actually valid, because they actually weren't. How embarrassing is this? How embarrassing. Remember, the bumbling moron who doesn't know anything about court, trial, authentication, depositions, or anything said these aren't actually authenticated. Law Twitter comes running out of their glory holes, their glory hole stalls, running out to quickly defend the solid affidavits of everybody involved, and all of the evidence has definitely been authenticated. But the actual lawyers getting paid by the actual companies and people involved here, who actually have their licenses and the case on the line, come out and say, whoa, we're going to correct that statement because oops. I am Senior Director of Public Relations at FUNimation LLC. Let's see, how many lines different is this? This is paragraph 2. Look at that. Paragraph 2 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.5 lines. Here it's a whole freaking page. Let's check it out. I'm Senior Director of Public Relations at FUNimation Productions LLC, which position I have held since September of 2018. I have provided public relations related services to FUNimation since 2015. As Senior Director of Public Relations at FUNimation, I am familiar with FUNimation's media and social media related activities, and I monitor media and social media posts related to FUNimation. In my job, I am the chief spokesperson of FUNimation. Super new. Why couldn't he have said that last time? I handle all outbound and inbound media inquiries for FUNimation. I routinely draft press releases and press statements and review communications for FUNimation's Twitter account at FUNimation, which necessarily requires me to have knowledge of what's going on at FUNimation with respect to its productions, its talent, and its corporate policies as part of my day-to-day activities at the company. As chief spokesperson for FUNimation, my job duties also require me to be aware of all media attention related to FUNimation's production and talent, including media attention to voice actors who appear in FUNimation's productions. In my job, I regularly and actively monitor print and online media related to FUNimation's business. including business, trade press, online news, and press about the anime industry and community. Hi, Scott. How are you? Welcome to the show. Well, now I know you've been watching, homie. Now I know you've been watching. As chief spokesperson for Funimation, my job duties also require me to be aware of all media attention related to Funimation's production and talent, including media attention to voice actors who appear in Funimation's productions. In my job, I regularly and actively monitor print and online media related to Funimation's business, including business and trade press, online news, and press about the anime industry and community. I do so by performing searches, e.g. Google, and by regularly checking the websites for online publications and media outlets such as Anime News Network, Polygon, IO9, Screen Rant, Newsweek, and Variety. So there you go, among others. These are the go-tos for Scott Barretto. If you want the first 6 problems with Funimation right now, you want the first 6 problems, it is Anime News Network, Polygon, IO9, Screen Rant, Newsweek, and Variety. There you go. There you go. The mouthpiece of Funimation, the filthy, sullied mouthpiece, rife with Sony's gonorrhea, is Scott Barretto. Right there. My job duties also require me to monitor social media on a regular basis for information related to Funimation by using media monitoring tools such as Social Studio, TweetDeck, and Listen First. In the performance of my job duties at Funimation during 2019, I regularly monitored media and social media resources for information related to Vic Mignogna. Vic Mignogna. As I stated in my prior affidavit, allegations of misconduct against Mignogna began to receive media and social media attention in January 2019 with the publication of articles by Anime News Network and Polygon.com, as well as tweets and social media posts from members of the anime community. Remember, hey, Scott. Hey, Scott. Assuming this affidavit is still around, assuming Ty gets your whole affidavit stricken prior to TCPA, defeats TCPA, and then Funimation hasn't settled and fired you yet, Scott. And by the way, Scott, if you're looking for a new job, because guess what? You're gonna get fired for this. I'm just guessing. It's not you, buddy. It's not you. It's all y'all. That's the plural for y'all. Is all y'all at Funimation have your shaft on the chopping block, so to speak. There's going to be a trimming. That's what happens when major media companies or major companies buy up a smaller company. There tends to be some sort of culling already, but it's typically relegated to a select management staff that they find to be inefficient, or trimming the fat, so to speak. Or redundant communications departments. Might not need someone to monitor Funimation if they're already got a significant public relations department at Sony. But maybe you're still good. But here we go. Let me just let you in on this. When there's a guy who admits to composing a tweet that drags a company into a lawsuit with a bunch of negative press and a bunch of angry fans who have canceled subscriptions, and a bunch of people who are out there saying, we're not going to buy your product anymore because you guys are stupid. You're already on the chopping block for that. But now I got a question for you, Scotty. You said that you regularly prepare press releases. An Anime News Network cited sources within Funimation discussing the employment arrangements of Victor Mignogna prior to your announcement. Who communicates with Anime News Network at Funimation? other than you, Scott. But hey, buddy, if you want to come on the show and tell your side of the story, email me. Also, after you get fired, if you want to come on the show and tell your side of the story, you're still welcome. I like you. I think you're cool. Let's see. As well as tweets and social media posts from members of the anime community. Who are these members of the anime? Like, members of the anime community. Are you talking about con sluts? Are you talking about con sluts? Can I buy the bathwater of a con slut? Are you talking about con sluts? Are you talking about what's a member of the anime community? Are you talking about the 7 Mile armed ape? Are you talking about Slope Chest? Are you talking about Jesse Thoughtmore? Who are you talking about here? Are you talking about Han Leia? Are you talking about the English school teacher in Japan that is somehow a member of the anime community? What members of the anime community are we talking about? Who is it? Examples of such media attention were attached to my prior affidavit. During this same time and through today, supporters of Manana, many of whom adopted the hashtag #IStandWithVic, threatened and harassed members of the anime community and others who supported the women who alleged misconduct by Manana, who used the hashtag KickVic. This is, you cannot actually make this claim. Harassment's a legal conclusion, Scott. You're not qualified to give a legal conclusion of harassment. Same with threats. Threats are legal conclusions. Threats are very serious, sometimes punishable by felonies. So I would hesitate from making those sorts of claims in your affidavit. Stay in your lane, Scott. Stay in your lane. Use the specifics. Say what they said. It's your time to shine, buddy. You get to talk and you don't do it. By late January, Funimation had received inquiries on social media and from the media whether Funimation... Did Funimation or did you? You're the link to the media, man. You're the gateway. You're the gateway. You're the chastity belt. You're the chastity belt for when Anime News Network wants to rape Funimation. You are the belt that stops them. Did you let him in? Who was it? Who was it? How did the company become aware? Whether Funimation intended to take any action or make any statement with respect to Manana. Due to the continued publicity surrounding Manana, including the allegations against him about inappropriate treatment of women referenced in the online media attached to my prior affidavit, Funimation decided to issue a short statement via Twitter regarding its decision to end its relationship with Manana, which Funimation did on February 11th, 2019. Note what's missing from the next line. I drafted Funimation's February 11, 2019 tweets in my role of Senior Director of Public Relations at Funimation. Scott, who made the decision to respond? Was it a board meeting? Were you present? Who ordered you to draft the statement? Drafting the statement is not making the statement with personal knowledge. It is drafting a statement. Who told you what to write? You wrote this in a way to not say that you made the decision. So who did? Who did, and why won't you just say it? War God 739 says, would supplementary material be more appropriate for an appeals court rather than leading up to the hearing on the TCPA? No, it's appropriate anytime other than after a filing deadline for material. If they beat TCPA, they can supplement with affidavits all day long. If Ty defeats them at TCPA and they move on, they can file all of the affidavits they want because there's no longer this deadline that's imposed by statute. If they win and Ty is forced to appeal, wouldn't it make more sense to amend to strengthen at the time? No, you want to get your arguments. You want to raise all of the issues that you can prior to appeal. You don't want to try and bring new facts and new information on appeal, because the appeals court will rule on things as a matter of law, and they will defer to the discretion of the trial court as the most appropriate party to determine matters of fact. So there you go. Oh, just an update I'm noticing in the chat. Your boy Zach's comic Jawbreaker's God King has 2 hours left and has just passed $190,000 on Indiegogo. Go check it out if you're looking to buy it during the campaign time and help him push his way into the top 3 of comics on Indiegogo. Go do it. Go. Excuse me. Get up there. Go help him out. All right. Back to here we are. Doesn't say who made the call. A true and correct copy of Funimation's tweets are attached to Funimation's TCPA motion as Exhibit L. Now listen. The purpose of the first tweet on February 11th was to inform the anime public of Funimation's decision to end its relationship with Mignana, which was a subject of public concern. That's a legal conclusion based on the public attention paid to the Mignana situation in the media and on social media. Strike, like, even if this affidavit survives, they're going to have to strike this sentence. Why, Scott? Why did you put a legal conclusion in? You're not qualified to make it. At the same time, and in the same Twitter thread, Funimation added the following sentence to its tweet. Did Funimation or did you? Did you? You drafted all the tweets. Okay, so you did. Why are you saying Funimation added it? You did it. Part of our... Wait, did he? Did he now? Says he drafted it. Did he tweet it? Did he press yes? Very, very weirdly worded. Very weirdly worded. All of this stuff. Just say it. Funimation. If you haven't figured this out, guys, they're terrified right now. Funimation is absolutely terrified of what Ty has done to them so far, what you guys have done to them so far, and what they fear is coming in this TCPA. And by the way, no matter the reaming they've gotten so far, their sphincter is not elastic enough for what Sony will do to them if they lose this TCPA motion. They're going in dry, they're going in hard, and they are in no way apologizing or stopping for what comes next. Funimation is terrified of this. Funimation added the following sentence to its tweet. Part of our core mission is to celebrate the diversity of the anime community and to share our love for this genre and to support its positive impact on all. We do not condone any kind of harassment or threatening behavior being directed at anyone. The purpose of this additional tweet was to respond to the continued heated back and forth among anime fans about Mignana. Were you directed to make this tweet, Scott? And was an effort to encourage civility in the anime community. Were you directed to make either tweet? And then were you directed in the interim between the first and second tweet to respond? Because you're saying to respond to the continued heated back and forth. Funimation nowhere stated or implied in any of its tweets that Mignana had engaged in any harassment or intimidation, sexual or otherwise. I'm aware of the purpose of Funimation's tweets because I drafted them for the company in my role of Senior Director of Public Relations. That doesn't actually necessitate that he would know the purpose of them at all. Was he given a sheet of paper that said draft a tweet to deal with this issue? Draft a tweet that accomplishes this, this, and this. Scott, let me just tell you, if they directed you to draft a tweet to do what you just said, to do the intent, you should be fired. That was a bad tweet. That was a terrible tweet. But blame them for directing you to make a tweet that was unnecessary. Oh, man. You know what, guys? Let me just... $150 million company. Some people on Twitter are saying we have to answer them. What are we going to do? Ignore it. Ignore it. Call your lawyer. Which you didn't, did you, Scott? Did you call Evan Stone? Did a single person call Evan Stone? Did you contact your legal department, Scott? When you get deposed, I guess you'll be asked that question. Did anybody for 1 second go, hold up? Should we listen to Twitter or should we contact the lawyer that we pay to protect our company? Did you contact Evan? Did you contact any other counsel? Which counsel signed off on this statement? Because I guarantee you that person would already be fired. But none of you did you? No one did. Which is why Evan isn't representing you in this case, isn't it? Isn't it, Scott? That's why you've got John Volney. Isn't it? Because Evan was probably like, who the hell did this? Why in God's name would you respond to random morons on Twitter with an announcement about firing an employee and why we did it? Why on earth would you tell anybody why we fired someone who isn't in prison already? And even then, maybe we want to keep it vague. But you didn't call anybody. Did you, Scott? God, I wonder if that question's going to come up when Scott gets deposed. Or at least, let me reiterate, I hope you didn't call, because any attorney who advised you to make those tweets should not only be fired, he should be disbarred, he should be disgraced, and he should go join law Twitter. He should go be an academic attorney and join law Twitter. Right? He shouldn't be allowed to practice. All right, next. Funimation's February 11th, 2019 tweets were truthful. Oh, okay. The self-serving assertion, conclusory assertion that they're truthful. In my role of Senior Director of Public Relations for Funimation, I am aware that an investigation of Mignogna was conducted, that Funimation recast Mr. Mignogna and Morose Mononoke in 2, and that Funimation will not be engaging Mr. Mignogna in future productions. In addition, and for the same reason, I am aware that part of Funimation's core mission is to celebrate the diversity of the anime community and to share its love for this genre and its positive impact on all. As stated in Funimation's February 11th, 2019 tweet. Further, Funimation does not condone any kind of harassment or threatening behavior directed at anyone. Well, Scott, that doesn't seem to be true at all, does it? No statement by Funimation in its February 11th, 2019 tweets is intended to defame Mignogna in any way. Nor do the statements imply that Mignogna engaged in any harassing or threatening behavior. Funimation has not made any other public statement about Mignogna since its tweets on February 11th, 2019. Here they have a big dilemma. Karen Mika says she says that she made the decision to terminate Mignogna based on the investigation of Tammy Denbo. Let's take that as true. Okay? Let's take that as true. Now, under oath, under sworn affidavit, by the way, saying based on the investigation does not actually mean that he engaged in engaged in threatening or harassing behavior. So let's take Karen Mika's affidavit as true. And if you notice, all three of these affidavits can't actually be true at the same time. That's a problem. Now, Scott is saying the statements under oath, the statements do not and were not intended to imply that he engaged in any harassing or threatening behavior. Well, that's great, but it's not up to you on whether they imply that or not. It's up to a reasonable person's read of the substantial message of the statement. So a reasonable person concluding that means it is. So then, is that a lie? And if it's not a lie, how is it not a lie? If it's not intended to make the statement that it makes, isn't that a lie? I don't know. We'll have to see, I guess. True and correct copies of the following original online publications and tweets are attached to Funimation's TCPA motion. Now, this actually is still probably not sufficient to authenticate these things. Oh, wait, no. Here we go. No! I don't think this is sufficient. The above articles from the reference publications were obtained by searching the websites for each of the reference publications and by printing true and correct copies of the original articles from the reference dates and from the websites. Who did it, Scott? Notice the passive voice in all of this stuff. Why is there a passive voice? Okay. For the purposes of TCPA, just like in a summary judgment motion, the moving party is asking the court to do something. So then the court returns that favor by reading all evidence. All evidence. Affidavits are evidence, okay? All evidence in the light most favorable to the non-moving party. So, when we read this sentence with passive voice, in the light most favorable to the non-moving party, that'd be Vic. To the moving party, it'd be Funimation. Now, let's read this. Let's read this in the light most favorable to Funimation. Here's how the statement would read if it was favorable to Funimation. The above articles from the reference publications were obtained when I, Scott Barretto, searched the websites for each of the reference publications, printed true and correct copies of the original articles from the reference dates from the websites, and attached them to this affidavit. Online comments made of the articles were then excluded from the copies submitted to the court. True and correct copies of the above original tweets were obtained from Mignana's and Funimation's respective Twitter accounts when I went to those Twitter accounts, pulled the copies, and attached them to this affidavit. That's how it's read most favorably to Funimation, because that means that Scott is authenticating the product that he is purporting to be true and correct. Here's how you read it in the light most favorable to Vic. Okay? The above articles from the reference publications were obtained by someone at Funimation, someone else at Funimation, searching the websites for each of the reference publications by printing copies of the original articles and handing them to me and asserting that they were from the dates referenced. Online comments made of the articles were then excluded by the other person when we submitted them to court. True and correct copies of the above original tweets were assured to be provided to me by another Funimation employee from Mignana and Funimation's respective Twitter accounts. That's how you read it in a light most favorable to Vic. It's written in a passive voice. And the inference of why you wouldn't just say, I did this, is because you didn't do it. Did you, Scott? Was it John Volney who gave them to you? Was it John Volney or was it Scott? Nothing wrong with John Volney doing it, so long as you actually assert your own knowledge of them to be true and correct by you verifying them. You do not have custody of the documents purporting to be an online production of a website unless you maintain that custody from start to finish, or you verified each document independently. You don't state that you did that. Why? Why? John, why didn't you have him state that he did that? Why is he writing in passive voice? Okay, and then all the affidavits are, or all of the exhibits are still there. We want to authenticate these unauthenticated exhibits by saying they're authentic after you pointed out that we didn't do it right. Well, we'll see. We'll see. Maybe the judge will allow this in. Absolutely possible. But I know how you make the argument to read it in the light most favorable to Vic. I like the Spike Man says, I'm glad knowing my degeneracy with cute two-dimensional girls is way less severe than these clowns fumbling in a bowling pin of a case. Funny as use artists who draw guru, rape, and loli. It's fam art. It's fam art is art. There you go. Cobb says, she Shayet. Gotta check through all my affidavits. I've made an assistant PI to see if I've made any legal conclusions. Or I've made as an assistant